Right, okay, so second stage of this breather is going to be actually getting the air out. Now, I have just recently cleaned up all the welds, redone some of them. There's a few little pinholes, so that's still red hot at the minute. So what I'm going to basically do is I am going to make a lid for this breather. Now, what I'm going to incorporate into the lid is all the baffling. I'll just cut a square probably in the top and make it all part of the lid. It's not going to be too extreme or anything like that, I don't think. So essentially, if that's the breather there, I'm going to have a plate that comes down, maybe a little bit of mesh or something on the end, a cup which sits in there, so the air has to come. So if this one being the back hole here, we come down, through, up, round before it can come and vent out. And then what I'll probably do to begin with is put a vacuum pipe on the end of here and attach it to the turbo, like the pre-turbo hose, the intake hose. So it'll just create a little bit of vacuum in this box just to help. This engine didn't breathe very heavily at all anyway, so I'm not expecting a problem. If it becomes an issue, I can just take that out and vent this then to atmosphere somewhere, but try and keep it all neat and tidy and all the smells contained basically. If I can burn them, I ain't got to smell them. So yeah, so that is going to be the basic plan. This is nowhere near to scale, so this will just sit somewhere in the middle of the square patch at the top. These are going to stop about halfway, I'd imagine. So that will allow it to fill halfway of oil, should it ever happen. I mean, I don't plan on that, but because if it goes higher than this, then it will create like a suction, and it will just suck everything out straight into the turbo. So what I'm going to do is, or maybe just put some holes in these outer shields, just so it doesn't create a vacuum too much and suck the oil back through. That's the last thing I want. So yeah, so I'm just probably going to make this out of steel, only because I haven't got much alley left, and I think I've got loads of scrap steel that I can just make this sort of basic setup out of, so I'm going to crack on with that. So what I've got here is an old cooker hood surround. Never used it, it's really thin sheet, so what I'm going to hopefully do is incorporate the grid in here that I can use as part of that mesh build up. So I'm going to cut a strip out of this and then see if I can bend it and use it to shape up the sort of mesh for the baffling. It might come in handy, save me a little bit of work. Right, so that's going to be the outer layer of the baffles made up. Now what I've done is I've cut it down, so I've only got holes on this one side, and that is the side that is furthest away from this port and these two ports, to allow the air the furthest to travel before it goes in there. So then what I'm going to do, this is just made, like, just not tacked together yet. I'll probably just pot rivet them together or something simple. Now I need to do is I'll make a cage for the inside, but what I'll do is I'll put the vent over this side of the bucket, so the air will have to come in around the middle and then into it. So yeah, so I'll just make another smaller square on the inside now. So that's the middle piece made up. Now what I'm going to do is cut this outer piece down a little bit more. Obviously they still need to be trimmed to height and everything else. I've got a breather section at the top there, breather at the bottom there, and it's just so much wasted space. I think I'm just going to cut it down, make it a little, probably cut a good 20 mil probably off of that, just to trim it down a bit, make it a little bit more, well, a bit smaller basically. Obviously a smaller cut in the top as well. So yeah, I'll get that trimmed down. Right, so the middle tube made up and cut down to a bit of size. I've sort of bent it over. It's nothing pretty, but you ain't going to see it, so it doesn't matter. What I'm going to do now is try and weld this up. Now it's extremely thin metal on there, so I did try a couple of kind of smaller scrap pieces I could. And I did try and weld. They do weld, just got to be very, very slow. Ideally I do need this center piece to be relatively airtight just to help vent it properly. The outer piece here isn't going to matter so much, so it just needs a few tacks. But yeah, so crack the MIG welder out. It's on the lowest possible setting, and now I'm just going to go around and slowly just weld all of this up. The reason I've left tags on the top, you can see, is if I make a plate go across the top, where I'm going to put the hole in, it gives me somewhere I can mount it and just tack, 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 weld it onto the top. Right, so let's get welded up. Right, got that welded up. Nothing pretty. I had to go a couple of passes on this side because it kept blowing the thin sheet out. But that's sealed up now, so that is the centerpiece. So that's going to be good to go. I still need to do this one, but what I might do is get this in place first on the base, and then mark this afterwards because I still have to trim it down. So yeah, let's get a base made up for the right size for the top here and get this tacked onto it. So we've got those bits tacked together. So it doesn't need to be airtight, the outside ones, there's no problem. I've made a little lid, I've got 4 little holes in there, I'll explain that later on. It's going to be a case of putting this, or welding this one, or tacking it in there first, and then putting this one over the top. And that will give me the baffling system inside the box. So yeah, I'll get these tacked together now. Then you've got a mess. So that is the baffle section welded together, the bit inside, just all tacked together as it is. I still just need to put a hole in the top just to allow the vent to get through. What I've also done, as evidenced by this, is cut a hole in the top of the breather box. So that is that, and then when the breather goes in, it will sit through in there. Now it's turned out to be basically the same height, so that's lovely. I'll probably have a little gasket or something that sits around the top anyway. Now the plan's going to be is to get another piece of aluminium over the top of all of it, so you've got the looks of the aluminium, then rivet on the 4 holes, which is why I drilled them out. Just rivet them in, and then that will come off with the lid in one go, and then just have to put it on the top, and then just have some fixing screws around the outside. So that is the plan. I'll get on and finish it off. And there we go, we got a couple of feet of workspace back again. So I've basically got most of this done. It is basically done now, apart from I need to drill a hole and put a fix in onto the top in the middle. But because I don't know where the air intake pipe is going to be, I don't know if I'm going to want to come out at a right angle or if I'm going to go straight up or out the back. So I'm not going to drill or do anything with that yet, but that should be a case of putting a hole in it, pipe in there with a fitting, and job done. So I'm going to leave that for another time. Needs a little bit of cleanup still from when I took it apart, but the whole bracket this is all going to fit on is all got to be taken apart anyway for painting underneath it, things like that. So I'll clean everything up as a job on its own. So that is how it's going to look. These obviously top bolts I've just left loose to make it a little bit easier to show you. So that will come out, then the top will come off, and then we got all of the breather assembly fitted onto that. Then we got the tank in there. So that is basically the breather box done. What I'm going to finally do is just assemble it together, fit it back on the car, make sure it fits, and get an idea what it looks like. And there it is, sat in the bay. So yeah, it all fits in. It's not fully bolted, but it is stiffened up the lower support. I have it now braced across the top as well, so it's nice and sturdy in there. Pipes fit. You see there's clearance for these pipes down the back here. So they're all fitting and they're good. I need to adjust this one slightly, just trim it down a fraction just to fit it on. just so it don't get in the way of the turbo at the back here. Just pull this back. There's still plenty of room out the back here for when I do eventually get around to the heater intake. So that's that done. As I say, I do need to put a port on the top, and I also just going to get a bit of rubber just to put around all of the inside of the lid, and that'll just help seal it as well. So that is good. And then when it comes to the front, because of the angle this is shaped at as well, it leaves me enough space. I've got a bit of scrap aluminium here in the old intake. Let's see how this goes in. As you can see, it's not a lot of room, but there is room for it, because there's quite a lot of movement there, up and down, forward and back. So yeah, there's plenty of room there to get to the turbo. So yeah, I'm going to leave that here. That's all done. It's another job ticked off the list. I'm happy with the outcome. And yeah, join me next time and see what I get on with then.